Who's ever heard about the big power of saying no? A lot of you? Sandy talked about it earlier too. Okay, who's heard about the power of saying yes? A couple of you, maybe more of you than I thought. No versus yes. I'm here to tell my story about how saying yes has opened a lot of doors for me, and I've been told that I have an aversion to saying no. And while saying no is often celebrated and it helps us set boundaries, I think differently. And I thank you for being here, for listening to why saying yes has worked for me, and hopefully it'll work for you. So a little story time. I'm Renee Patrone Rhinehart. Like Ashley said, I am an event planner by trade. So I own two companies. One is 15 years old. It's called Events by Renee. We do planning, coordination, mostly the tri-state Philadelphia area. And I also am the founder and owner of Party Host Helpers. So we are a nationwide party staffing company. You might have seen some of our team members at the door welcoming you. So I just want to tell you a little story about how we got started and how we built our national brand. When I first started Party Host Helpers, which was a sister to Events by Renee, I started it thinking that it would just be that. In the tri-state area, just a small pocket of business for me. But for some reason, when I set up the website, even before I paid someone to set up the newer website, I thought to give it a 1-800 number versus just a 610, 856, a local number. And it is crazy who called that 1-800 number and what happened next. So I remember it vividly. I was sitting in a hotel room in Dallas on a break from a corporate event that I was planning. And someone called and said, "I'm really stressed out. I need someone to come to my house and make mojitos for this big event that my client is throwing this weekend." Okay, well, where are you located? I'd love to help you. Well, we're in West Hollywood. Like, oh, shit. I'm in Philadelphia, and I don't have any bartenders in Los Angeles, but I could. So I didn't say anything. I said, "Sure, I can definitely help you. Let me know what you need. Give me your details. I'll send you a quote. This is how much we cost." Well, apparently there's a company with a similar name to ours in the Los Angeles area, and that's how they found us. So, like any good entrepreneur, I thought about the contacts and who I knew, and there was a guy that I knew from the Philadelphia area who recently moved to Los Angeles for a job opportunity, and I Facebook messaged him. I said, "Tom, I need someone to make mojitos as a bartender this weekend in Hollywood." And he wrote me back, and he's like, "I know a guy, but he might be too handsome." I'm like, what? Do you know someone? He's like, "Me, I'll do it." So there's Tom to the rescue in Hollywood, our first event for Party Host Helpers outside of the Philadelphia tri-state area. So, yeah. And it's funny because a big, a Philadelphia newspaper wrote a business story about me, and that photo was in there. I'm like, "Tom, you're famous. You're in the Inquirer." And he stayed on my team for a while, too, as a side gig, so that's always fun. So today, we are a nationwide party staffing company from coast to coast. We're in 30 cities. We have corporate clients like Porsche, Bloomingdale's. We did 2 of the BMW PGA tournaments. We are in festivals for thousands of people, down to doing parties in the Hamptons for CEOs who have an intimate dinner for 10. So we service across the board, not just big events, but small events. I originally started the company thinking it would just be residential, and it turned into much more because I said yes. Since then, I was named 40 under 40. I'm over 40 now, so I can't get that again. Best of Philly twice, promoted on American Airlines, and lots of TV opportunities because I said yes. It might all sound like roses, but of course, I have a backstory to tell. So the beginning. I'm just going to go through and kind of tell you where I started, how I got to be in the event world, and how I ended up where I am. So it all started with a block party, 1981. 3 days old, my parents took me to my first party. So I like to start off with that. I think I've always had partying in my genes. I love to host friends. I was always the group leader, planning what we were doing that weekend. I have a guy friend in college who still can't get our plans straight when we all get together. I'm like, you just need to hire me full time to be your party assistant to help you get things straight. In high school, I was in theater, which was great. I think it made me realize that I love a production. I love the practicing, the rehearsing, the lead up, the excitement, the nervous jitters that you get before you put on a beautiful production. My talent wasn't great, obviously not enough to move forward in college, but I realized that maybe public relations and events was similar to that, right? Especially with PR, you're pitching the story, you're waiting for the journalist to pick it up, to write back, to publish it. And then with events, the lead up, the anticipation. So it was interesting to, start off thinking that I loved theater and then figuring it out for my career. College, so I went to a small liberal arts college, and back then, there weren't that many event planning courses out there. Unless there were, and I was just at such a small school. But I have interns now, and I have the last handful of years. And I'm like, what the heck do you learn in event planning courses? Because I feel like I had to dive in and get my hands dirty to learn everything. Like, do you learn how to count seats and make spreadsheets? I don't know. I'm always curious about that. I didn't have that luxury, but I tried to create opportunities where I could get my hands dirty and learn the best I could. So I remember vividly sitting in the college, the college career counselor's office. I was 20 probably. She's like, well, what are your hobbies? And I can help you find an internship based on that. I'm like, well, I like to shop and I like to sit on the beach. I kind of still like to do those things. And she said, all right, let's call King of Prussia Mall, which is, if you're not familiar, is the largest mall on the East Coast and beyond. And I got an internship there, and I did some events for them, and I learned about their marketing, and I schlepped signs all over that mall. But, I think I was grateful for the opportunity to figure out what I enjoyed and then building a career from there, starting with the theater and then the internships. I also interned at Children's Hospital in their media relations department, which later led to my future boss, the woman who led me there, which I had no idea I would even connect with her later in life, turned out to be my boss for a few years and now is a mentor and a good friend. I was just at her son's wedding not too long ago. And I also interned internally, at the college. So the internships that I had, I don't know who's on the Zoom, but maybe there's a lot of people that are still trying to figure it out. And I think that one of my big lessons is just diving in. So then I got my first job. So I don't know if anyone remembers 2003. That's the year I graduated. There was no work to be had. I remember sitting around in, laying by the pool of our apartment complex, let's just babysit until the fall comes around. The job market was not like it is now. There was no opportunities. So one of the internships that I had, which was at a local magazine, they're like, just hold on. Give us 6 months, we'll give you a part-time opportunity, and then you can grow more. So I feel like very early on in my career, because of the climate of the world and our nation, I had to learn a lot of patience, but it paid off. So my first good job, real job, full-time job, ended up being at the magazine where I interned. I was very patient, got the opportunity, and was so happy there. My boss was the publisher, and she threw me into more networking events than I probably had time for on my schedule, but she made it fun. I mean, I was a 22-year-old, drinking Chardonnay and rubbing elbows with people in their 40s, 50s, even 60s that had so much experience and opportunity, and I just took it in. I listened to them. I told them my story. I tried to just emulate what they were doing in their careers and learning from them every chance I could. And I know a lot of times, people struggle with networking. Does anyone have a problem with network? I mean, if you're here, you're probably not bad at networking, right? You enjoy it. But there are a lot of people who struggle with it. And for me, early on at 22, I realized this is so easy and fun. I need to capitalize on this. So I just did what I did anyway. And for me, networking is not, hi, my name's Renee, I'm Partio's Helpers. What do you do? For me, it's like, hey, what do you do? How can I help you? What are you working on? What context are you looking for? And I think because that's been my attitude since the beginning of giving people the opportunity to let me help them versus pulling for my business. I think that's helped me along the way. So then we had some obstacles. I left the magazine and went to work for another magazine. I felt like I was hitting my head at the first magazine. I needed to be in a better place. So I went to work for a different magazine trying to do sales. I'm not good at sales. I'm naturally a connector. I don't like to push people to buy things. And I found out quickly that it was not my strength. So I got laid off from that job. So I did what any ripe 26-year-old who thinks that they know it all would do. It's when I started my first company with a partner, and we were going to do corporate events because in 2007, that is when people were doing tons of trips, right? If you worked for a pharmaceutical or your partner worked for a pharmaceutical company, you were flying all over the place, incentive trips and sales trips and meetings, tons of stuff before it all got, pushed away. So the corporate meeting and event world was so new to me, but that's what we wanted to do. We didn't want to deal with brides. We had big dreams of making money doing corporate event planning. And then 2008 hit. Raise your hand if you remember 2008. I would say that's probably the roughest time besides COVID, and we'll get into COVID later too. It hit, and I had to pivot. I had to figure it out. My partner and I split because we both had to fend for ourselves. I was a single woman. My father had passed away at that time. My mom couldn't afford to, support me financially, so I had to put food on the table. So my pivoting looked like babysitting, working part-time PR jobs, doing some admin work to piece things together. But during this time, I never gave up on my first business, Events by Renee. And that's, sometimes I'll speak at universities and to newer entrepreneurs, and that's what I like to remind them. Just because you start a business and have other sources of income or are doing things to make it work, you're still a business owner, and you should celebrate that first day that you decide this is a business. So I pieced it all together. And I even, at one point, I had a meeting planning job for a corporate company, and I remember sitting in my car on my lunch break talking to my brides that I had that weekend because I still kept the business going, and I'm really proud that I did because we're 15 years old this year, and, here we are. But it gets better. I swear it gets better. I had to learn to pivot, though, and I'm sure many of you have learned to pivot, too, along the way or will down the road, especially COVID made us all pivot. So if you can relate to being alone and having to fend for yourself at some point, like I just talked about, raise your hand. Kind of got ahead of myself on the slides. So during that time, though, I would say it was like between 2008 and 2015, which was a long time to keep trying to build the first business, Events by Renee. I was working, like I said, at PR firms. I was running my business from my kitchen island. I was babysitting. When the kids went to bed, I would be on my computer building this. A lot of people think Party Host Helpers was an overnight success, but it really was all these years of me building my first brand, so the second brand was a breeze. But I said yes to introductions, networking events, marketing assistants I could afford, even TV shows that in between that time, Fox 29. Finally, I got on. That was a huge dream of mine to go on the morning show and talk about party tips. And I was at a networking event, and I ran into not the producer, but Jen Fred. So if anyone is from Philly, she's one of the morning hosts. And I talked to her, and we had like one mutual connection at that time, and I told her what I did, and she loved it. And we did a segment. We did 3 segments before Thanksgiving that year, and it was great, and I'd wanted that for so long. Now Fox calls me twice a month that I'm on there, so it's crazy. It's great. It helps build the business, but it's fun, and this all happened during my time of uncertainty, still having a salary from someone else and building the business, trying to get to where I am now. And the growth has been crazy. So I finally, and I will say that to date, besides family stuff, I think that finally having enough business on the books is what got me, is how I was able to break away from the other jobs that I had. But that's a big achievement for me. When I won 40 under 40, you had to go up there and say your achievement. These people are like big corporate people. They've been working for the man forever. There wasn't that many of us entrepreneurs up there, but I was so thrilled. And I said, my biggest achievement is only being able to focus on my businesses. It's that I didn't need other income coming in. And, a lot of my event planner competitors had a husband at home. They were doing this on the side. They had the financial support to go out and build a business. And I was really gritty. I was doing this from the bottom up, and I was proud. Finally, in 2015-ish, when I got to say, all right, no more babysitting, no more corporate jobs. I'm doing this. This is it. No turning back now, because it had been long enough. And that's when Party Host Helpers started. So I was finally where I was with Events by Renee. And if you've ever hosted a party and realized the next day that you were sick of actually running around and doing the work and wanted to experience it, raise your hand. That's why I started it. I would wake up the next day after hosting people at my Philly apartment or even just like business lunches that I threw, and I'm like, gosh, I don't want to be washing dishes. I want to enjoy the people that I'm hosting. And my Events by Renee clients were coming back to me after I ran their corporate event or their, daughter's wedding, saying, Renee, I need a bartender. Do you know anyone? And yeah, I knew someone and I set them up, but there was a real need for it. And, we've competitors, we have competition, but I think the way that I rolled it out, and because I had so much event experience, it really took off like wildfire. And you heard my LA story. So it was crazy. There's Laura. Party Host Helpers. Laura was one of our models for a photo shoot, but she's here too, along with Jen. They're both on my team, and they run different territories for us. So 2019 was the best year we had. We were up to 7 figures in business. We were in 30 cities. We were rocking and rolling. We had huge goals. And then COVID hit. Like many of you, we were also affected by it. The hospitality industry. That's why I asked Shelly that question, because it sounds like the Hard Rock did okay, but not at first. And the hospitality got rocked. No one wanted to party. No one was partying. And it's like, what do you do? I called a mentor. I'm like, what do I do? What do I even put on social media? Like, sorry, your wedding's going to be next year. So instead, again, we pivoted. we put, social media was full of recipes, things that you could do at home to celebrate. Fox 29 was putting me on to talk about those stupid birthday parades that we all did in those 2 years. They would Zoom me in to talk about Valentine's Day things you could do from home with your kid. Really, these moms, they need more advice on what to do with Valentine's Day with their kids. Like, everyone was going stir crazy, and I did not have a child at the time. So to be a mom during that time, I give everyone a lot of credit. But my team pretty much stayed true. Everyone stuck in their roles. We took the time, did what we had to do, and we made it out. And me personally, I don't tell a lot of people this, and I'm a little embarrassed, but I really shouldn't be. During COVID, my husband and I were in a rental. We had sold his condo quickly. We were house hunting. I was desperately trying to have a baby. And I got 2 jobs to help put food on the table. I was a babysitter for 2 days a week, back to my roots. And I worked at the wine and spirit store a couple days a week. And when I saw people come in that I knew, I hid in the back. But I look back and I'm like, I should be proud of that. As, it reminded me where I started and why I'm a businesswoman now, because I have the grit and I just do whatever needs to be done to make it happen. So, like many of you, so stupid COVID. But I will say, we are back and better than ever. How far I've come. This is me on ABC in DC a couple years ago, so that was exciting too. But we're in every major city, coast to coast. We double our sales goals. We're back up to the 7 figures. We have 20,000 people that work for us now nationwide. So they're in our system, bartenders, servers. And for me, it's a lot of people ask me, like, what's your greatest joy of running this company? And I look at it two ways. Obviously, I love making clients happy. I love making sure that they're enjoying their party. I love that I hear from grandparents that say, "Oh my gosh, thank you for your service. I was actually able to enjoy my children, my grandchildren this Christmas season without worrying about doing dishes." Or, we hear from maybe a small business owner who is hosting a happy hour for their top clients, and they could actually talk to their clients versus checking people in. So it's twofold. But my greatest joy is giving people an opportunity to get out and make some extra money, because that was me 15 years ago, 14 years ago, 13 years ago. So the fact that we have 20,000 people that know that they can log on to Party Host Helpers, find a job that works with their schedule, and make some cash, that's where I find my joy. And my executive team is amazing. There's six regional directors across the country who manage these different territories, and they're constantly growing and evolving, and it's just, we're in a really great place right now. So, but my biggest achievement was becoming a mom. This was a while ago, obviously. She's 15 months now, but I already got her on TV. She's a It's a funny face she's making, but she is a little regular on Fox. They love having her on. Even recently, I had her in a stroller because we were in between. Had a mom thing to do, but before that, I had to jump in the studio, and they're like, "Bring her on." This was the Phillies World Series, so it's exciting that I already have her on TV. But like I said, my biggest dream, and I started my businesses, and I always wanted to be an entrepreneur for the flexibility, and I think that it's finally paying off. I finally have the flexibility, and I'm a mom and a wife. So here are my takeaways, and I got through my slides probably quicker than I was supposed to, Ashley. And I do have some swag, because I would not be a good business owner without swag. So if anyone has questions, I have some swag to give out. But here's my takeaways from today, and I hope that my story inspired you a little bit. If you have enough tenacity and enough drive, you can bounce back from anything. I think we've all experienced that. And it's just a reminder to pat yourselves on the back, too, for that. And when you get into a situation where you need an extra push, remember your tenacity. Don't stay in your box. Make connections by networking with new people, like we all are today. And it's never too early to start. I know that me personally, being a business owner and I don't have to go to the networking events like I used to 10, 12 years ago. But doing things like this where I'm out of my comfort zone, I'm in a different state, that's my new mission for networking. It's, going to conferences and meeting new people that are outside of my network. And pay it forward. Give it back to those in need. That's true leadership. And like I said about the networking, how can you help them just as much as they can help you? At Party Host Helpers, we pay it back a lot. We donate a lot of helpers to a lot of different charity events all across the country, and that's always been our mantra, our mission. So we may not financially donate a lot, but we give helpers to charity events. So it all helps. And be fearless. Don't be afraid of saying yes. It's okay to say yes. You won't believe the doors will open for you like they did for me. So thank you. Any questions, comments? Oh, you need the mic. I learned that from being here all day. You need the microphone. See, I am an event planner. Yeah.
I have a 6-year-old that loves freebies, by the way. Okay. So, and pink, just putting it out there.
Okay, I see a pink one.
So I'm in the executive search industry, but actually started my company in 2007. So we just celebrated 15 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And can certainly relate as well to the roller coaster. Sorry, the sun's in my eyes. And can relate as well to the roller coaster of obviously recruiting. But I think I'm at the point now where I'd like to know, I'm at the scaling point. Talk to me about when you decided, okay, I've got a business, I've got some cash in the bank to be able to scale a business. When was the point that you said, okay, I'm going to do it? And kind of what investment did you make? What advice did you have? I'm looking for, I don't know if it's a playbook, but yeah, you've been very inspirational, so I'd love to know your input.
That's a good question, and I probably should have covered that a little bit more. Obviously, the scaling idea started when the Los Angeles job came through, right? And then after that, it opened my eyes to the opportunities that were in front of me that weren't just in Philadelphia or LA. So for me, I'm really lucky. I don't know if it was SEO or people searching for us or not a lot of competition, but we built our territories in the beginning on business coming in. If I saw a request for Chicago, I'm like, well, who do I know in Chicago? Go on LinkedIn. Who's in Chicago? For me, it's easy to build territories because we don't have brick and mortar. And you don't either. Right. So it's a little bit of. Oh, you need the microphone.
Oh. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's more because we do national and global recruiting. I think it's more the infrastructure, the building the leadership team from the ground up.
Yep.
Because I sold my business, I bought out the company, from my business partner, and I have a team of 4 right now.
Great.
But I'm ready to
keep going.
keep going.
So some of the tactics that I used was, I have regional directors that are in charge of territories, like I said. So because we're not brick and mortar, it's easy to open in a city. So for me, it's not like throwing a huge party in Chicago saying, "Hey, we're here." It's as simple as a Facebook post on our channels, on LinkedIn, on here. Hey, and who's in Chicago? Okay, great. Let's connect you and figuring out what connections you have. And maybe there's some industry-specific organizations in the cities that you're trying to open up in. For us, it's different event planning organizations that would need Party Host Helpers or would have a lot of members that could use us. And then also using your team to help build your team. So I'm really lucky. The women and man on my team are really open and good about talking to people if they're, if we're looking to hire them for a position. And just as much as I hire someone based on what I think we need, I also like to run them through the rest of my team to see how they think they'll be a good fit. So if it's something like, hey, Jen, can you talk to this person who might be a good fit? Or can you mentor them for the first 6 months and put something in place where you're giving them a kickback? Because if this person's successful, it's going to do you a lot. It's going to make you money. So incentivize the person to make them great. And it's not a lot of money out of your pocket, I would think, because down the road, this person will be engaged. And it's one thing off of your plate, too, as the owner. Sorry, the son, I know. All right, here's a pink hat. We can talk more, though, for your daughter. You're welcome. Woo. Anyone else? Oh.
So do you still run both businesses?
I do. So I actually ran a wedding on Saturday night. That's why I didn't come in early. I do. I have 6 people that work sporadically for me for Events by Renee. But I will tell you, Events by Renee is less than $100,000 a year company versus Party Host Helpers, which is obviously big, much, much bigger, much more of my time. I have Events by Renee 1 where it's pretty easy, and I do a lot of day of where I can jump in. I keep it. A lot of people are like, why do you keep it? A few reasons. It fuels me creatively. With Party Host Helpers, I could sit behind my computer for the rest of my life and still run it. I mean, it wouldn't grow because I'm not at things like this, but with Events by Renee, I have to keep up with industry trends. I'm connecting with different event vendors, and that's keeping me in the loop, which helps me run the other business creatively, sort of. And it keeps me in the Philadelphia tri-state area as a name, which in turn brings in more business for Party Host Helpers in the Philadelphia tri-state area. Plus, I like the extra motivation and the cash, It's like my own side hustle, but.
So
she needs
hi.
a mic. Oh, what color hat would you like?
Oh, does she want to?
I have blue.
Well, I
This
just
one?
wanted. Hi.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, I'm Chris. I just want to ask. Like, you touched on your purpose, but have you really? Because we talked a lot about purpose today. Have you nailed down your purpose? Do you think, or something you're still working on?
I think I'm still working on it. I have a really hard time thinking big. No, I mean, I think big. I'm sorry. I tend to separate my life in buckets. So I might have a purpose as a mom, a wife, a friend, a daughter, and then of course, I always have a purpose being a business owner. But I'm struggling with bringing it all together. And what's my purpose as Renee Rhinehart? Is it to get on more TV shows? That's kind of shallow. Is it to be a better mom? Sure, but then that doesn't fuel my career path. So I don't know, maybe I need coaching on that. Yeah, exactly.
I loved your story so much. Thank you so much for sharing so vulnerably. I think there's a lot of strength in that. The question I have for you is, how has motherhood shifted things for you in terms of motivation, how you're working, and how you see the future trajectory of your two businesses?
Great question. I'm still figuring a lot of that out. But for me, it's really brought more focus to my life because I don't have as much time as I used to have. So for me, I feel a lot more disciplined in how I plan my day. I know Sandy talked a lot about her day, and I'm a big proponent of waking up early, getting things done. And I would say the last 6 months, I've been trying to be the mom who wakes up and works out, right? So I can't get to the gym. We don't even have one in our town, which is crazy. So I have a trainer come a couple days a week to the house while my kid's playing. So I'm learning a lot about balance and just making it happen. I'm learning about slowing down and enjoying these precious moments because apparently they don't last forever. You guys with teenagers are scaring me. But, I'm putting my family first, which, I got married when I was 38. I had the baby at 40. I had a lot of years of doing whatever I wanted. So that's been a refreshing, but also sometimes difficult change. So I think it's made me a little bit more organized. My husband might disagree with that, though. He thinks I'm still a mess, but no. But my vision is clear for the type of person I want to be now that I'm a mother, that, I don't want to stop. I want to teach my daughter how to be a badass woman, but also kind and considerate. And, I want her to be well-rounded. So I have eyes looking at me now that I never had. So that was a good question. I'm sure all of you agree that our parents, too, that your life shifted when that happened. Thank you.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much.
What color do you want? That's it. We're done now. No more hats left.
We have a Zoom question.
Oh, great.
So,
I'll mail you a hat.
Cassie McLaughlin said, do you ever get tired? You're amazing.
People ask me that a lot. I do get tired, and I try to take the time for myself. I'm a good sleeper. I think because I run so hard during the day, when my head hits the pillow, I'm out. But it is challenging to balance it all and make it happen. And sometimes I look at my calendar, I'm like, I would just want to stay home today. I don't feel like doing all this stuff. And I'll be the first entrepreneur probably that has stood up here to say that, because a lot of times we go to these things and, people put on the face and act like everything's perfect, but there's some days where I don't feel like dealing with it. So luckily I'm a little flexible and I could, rearrange my schedule if I needed to. But I think, and a lot of you agree with this, you have to schedule in downtime for yourself, whether it's getting your nails done, like Sandy said, or going to the spa. I try to fit that stuff in, and my husband's great about my schedule, and, we work very well together as a team. So I do get tired, though. Thanks, Casey.
Sure. What do you see as the vision for both companies?
So for Events by Renee, I would love to bring someone on who can help me grow it a little bit. I mean, I know how to grow businesses. I just haven't given it enough attention lately. I would like to see where that goes in the next 5 years. And if it's not going anywhere, then I shut it down. It's okay. I'll always be an event planner by trade. That's been in my blood. So it's what I do. And then for Party Host Helpers, I get inquiries from Canada, Australia, and England a couple times a year. So beyond growing our territories in the United States, a big vision for me is to expand internationally. We'll see. But right now, the bigger cities, they're doing great. New York's doing great. Chicago's doing great. California's doing great. Philly does great, of course, because Jen's been in charge of it for 8 years. And it's where we started it. So we have a lot of great business there, and our team is so good at keeping the business going. So I think the next big step is some international opportunities.
Very cool. Any other questions?
Everyone likes to party globally,
Yeah.
internationally.
You picked a good Picked a good business to
a
be
good
in.
subject, yeah.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
So I'm not going to ask a question. I'm going to
Uh-oh, I'm
give, I'm gonna give a
scared.
testimonial. No, I think Renee and I met almost beginning of your career, probably at one of the magazines. And you've done an amazing job. She works her butt off. Even when we had the meeting, Ashley and I had a meeting with Renee for this event, and we got to meet Reese for the first time. She brought her daughter along, and her daughter was going off swimming, going back. But for Ashley and I in our business, we always have the option of staffing through her company. And it's just amazing, and thank you. You said you give back to the people from buying from you, or people who you employ, but you're always like, oh, we can hire party host helpers. That's so cool. We can do this when we get there. So it's just, and it is so nice when your team does take over part of that, and you don't have to work that anymore. So thank you, and thank you for sharing your
for being a
story.
trusted partner for us too. These are the relationships that we love, and we love helping our clients. So
You see Renee on TV. I don't even know how often you're on Fox, but we catch you like every time.
if anyone has contacts outside of Fox 29, I'd love some other opportunities now. No, it's fun.
So I just wanted to mention you had a couple of, did you have a question?
I have been in, the WPTV down here. You're right.
Cool.
You're
She's
right.
been on TV down here in South Florida. So Eric said, the comment from Eric Allen, great presentation. I'm proud to be the man on this incredibly woman-owned and incredible female team I get to work with. So I wanted to make sure you knew that.
Thank you, Eric.
And then there's some guy on Zoom named Ted who said, great job, Renee.
That's my husband. I paid him to say that. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.